Bonjour randonneurs. This is a presentation on the road to PBP 2027. I am Raghu Vishal, Director of Audax India. I will be presenting to you a brief overview about PBP as an event, including its format, qualification requirements, route, and how best to prepare for it. Paris Brest Paris, or PBP for short, is a 1,200-kilometer long brevet organized by ACP in France once every 4 years. The last edition was held in 2023, and the next edition, which will be the 21st edition, will be held in August 2027. Here's a brief overview of PBP in numbers. It was 1,219 kilometers long in the last edition, and it is expected to be about the same distance in 2027, although there are some significant changes to the route in the next edition. The total elevation gain is about 12,000 meters, which may vary slightly between different platforms like Strava or Ride with GPS, and even between various GPS bike computers that riders use. But 12,000 meters is what you should expect to climb on this ride. The time limit is 90 hours, but there are other options if you wish to choose a shorter time limit of 80 hours or 84 hours. I will explain the basic differences amongst these options in a later slide, but most people opt for the 90 hours cutoff. The participation limit in 2023 was set at 8,000, and there were about 6,500 cyclists that started. The participation limit in 2027 is again set to 8,000. There were over 67 countries represented at PBP in 2023, with, of course, France having the most entries. The first edition of PBP was organized as a competitive race back in 1891, in which professional cyclists and amateurs participated together. It is now organized as a grand randonnée every 4 years. The history buffs amongst you can look up the Wikipedia page for more information on the evolution of this event. Here are the links to the official PBP website and social media pages. Audax India also has a web page where we have posted useful resources for previous editions. These links will also be posted in the video description. I recommend that you bookmark them and check these social media accounts and the website regularly for official updates. Should you decide to participate in PBP, know that you will be doing so in the oldest cycling event in the world that is still being conducted in modern times. This is also the only sporting event to have a dessert named after it, the Paris Brest, the shape of which is said to signify the shape of a bicycle wheel. Audax India first participated at PBP in 2011 with 15 riders. The number of people finishing the event in each edition has been steadily increasing, with the hope that 2027 will be the year that most of our participants from India will be homologated. The first wave of PBP riders will be flagged off on Sunday, August 22nd, and the event will conclude on the 26th. The whole registration process starts with pre-registration, opening on 16th January 2027, based on the longest distance BRM you finished between November 2025 and October 2026. So your journey to PBP will be across 2 years. Most participants have busy work schedules, so if you plan to participate, then try to block at least 2 weeks leave from work in August 2027. You heard me use the term pre-registration a few times already. Pre-registration is not the same as registration. It is important you understand the distinction. The pre-registration process allows riders to book a starting spot early on. In the past, the event has been sold out during the pre-registration process. So I urge all aspirants to pre-register for this event. The longest ride you complete between 1st November 2025 and 31st October 2026 will determine your priority to pre-register for the event. This simply means that the longer your ride in 2026, the earlier you can pre-register for PBP in 2027. Pre-registration doesn't guarantee registration. You still need to complete an SR series between 1st November 2026 and 12th June 2027 and submit the homologation numbers to complete your registration. This is where a few riders tend to confuse registration with pre-registration. You need to complete the longest possible ride for you in 2026 and complete an SR series in 2027 before the 12th June deadline. If you miss this deadline, then you lose your pre-registered spot. I've had riders panic call me in the past that they had issues with registration despite having completed their SR series. But it turned out that they completed the SR series in the pre-qualification period, which was a year before PBP. This is the URL where you will pre-register and eventually also register for PBP. I suggest you create your account anytime before 15 January 2027 and become familiar with the portal rather than on the day your pre-registration window opens. There is a non-refundable pre-registration fee of 50 euros, which you will forfeit if you choose to drop out of the event later. I've had riders request me to help them get a refund on this, but ACP doesn't make any exceptions on this. So keep that in mind. In 2023, we had over 400 people pre-register and then only around 275 people completed their registration. This table gives the timeline of when your pre-registration window will open based on your longest homologated ride. If your longest ride in 2026 has been a 200 BRM or if you didn't ride at all, please don't panic. There were many riders who were able to register for PBP in 2023 without any pre-qualifying rides in 2022, since many who pre-registered had later opted to drop out, which cleared up spots for people to register. To be in the first batch of people to pre-register, you should complete at least 1,000 kilometers ride before 31st October 2026. Registration fee for 2027 is not yet published online. I presume they are still crunching the numbers. But for reference, you should note that the entry fee in 2019 was 135 euros, and in 2023, they hiked it to 190 euros. Once the registration opens on May 29th of next year, you will have to enter the homologation numbers of your 4 qualifying rides of your SR series. And in addition to that, you can opt for the event jersey, select a size, select the reflective vest size, and opt for any other optional services, and then pay the balance registration fee, net of the pre-registration fee you paid earlier. So the 50 euros you paid in pre-registration will be credited towards the final registration fees you need to pay. So in 2023, we paid 50 euros in pre-registration and then the balance 140 euros during the registration process. So what do you get for the money you pay for PBP? What does it include? You get to participate at PBP. You will get a brevet kit on the day before the ride, which will include a reflective vest of the size you picked in the registration form. You'll get a water bottle with the event branding, your bibs to be fixed on the bike and the helmet, a brevet card with a waterproof pouch, and you can also avail the left luggage service at the start finish point. The left luggage service at the start line is not the same as a drop bag service. You can leave a small bag with fresh clothes at the start line, which you can collect upon finish. So you can have a change of clothes right after you complete the event. There will be shower facilities at the finish point. This bag will remain at Rambouillet and it will not be transported to any controls by ACP. It's important you understand this distinction. Also, once you finish, you will be served a meal at the finish point. The registration fee will also include, of course, your finisher medal. ACP provides navigational aids by way of route markers posted throughout the entire 1200-kilometer course. You will also be provided digital route links on the Open Runner platform. This is similar to like Strava and Ride with GPS. And you can use those same links to download GPX route files for your bike computers like Garmin, Wahoo. There will also be route marshals in cars and motorcycles along the route to keep an eye on the participants. Access to various checkpoints and food stops. You will also have access to the first aid stations at those same checkpoints. There will also be a event movie that will be published by ACP at the end of PBP, like a few months later. There will also be an event insurance, but that is only for third-party damage. This will not cover you as the rider or your bicycle. There will be many items or services that you may need or want during the event. This list of services not covered under the registration fee is not exhaustive. Basically, anything not covered in the previous list will have to be paid for extra. The fees for optional services haven't been published yet by ACP, so I have provided the numbers from the previous editions as a reference. You may expect the cost to be the same or marginally higher in 2027. In 2019 and 2023, all controls accepted my credit card as payment for the food I ate, and the lines were never too long. I saw elaborate arrangement of pipes and taps for riders to refill their water bottles. But if you are particular about drinking only bottled mineral water, then you'll have to pay for it extra. You will also have to pay for a proper sleeping bed with blanket and a wake up service. You can provide the volunteer a wake up time and they'll come actually to wake you up so you don't oversleep. Do not expect the organizers to come rescue you on the route if you DNF. Your best option is to ride to the nearest control to report that you quit and seek guidance on how to return to Rambouillet by train. You will have to pay for your own train or bus ticket to get back to the finish point. There is also no drop bag service, as I previously said, but there are some private vendors who offer to pick up your drop bag from your hotel and transport it to the control point of your choice, and then return your drop bag to the finish or your hotel after the control is closed. Next, we'll talk about the start time slots and the various time limit categories. The bulk of the participants at PBP will be in the 90-hour cutoff for solo bikes. This is the block highlighted in green in this table. Riders will be flagged off in waves of 300 or so cyclists every 15 minutes so as to manage road traffic on the route. This is also the first time PBP will have a special start slot reserved only for women. For the time limits, I recommend only previous finishers of PBP to consider the shorter time limit categories. Those riders opting for the 84-hour cutoff will typically expect to ride solo on the route as they flag off the next day morning. These will be the riders who are accustomed to riding alone and may even prefer it. There will also be some logistical issues associated with the 84-hour cutoff since local trains won't operate so early in the morning at 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. that time around. Some riders have expressed an interest to participate on a tandem, in which case you have only one time slot in 90 hours and one time slot in 84 hours. Riders in the 80-hour cutoff are very seasoned riders, typically racing for an early finish under 50 hours or 60 hours. If you expect to finish around 80 hours, then it makes more sense to just register with the 90-hour group and then ride with the 90-hour group to maximize your chances of finishing the ride with a homologation. You should consider registering in the shorter time options only if you finished PBP previously and are looking for a different type of challenge or a different experience at the next edition of PBP. An example of a different experience may be that those in the 84-hour category may cover some stages in the daytime, which the 90-hour group may cover in the nighttime. Also, the first few controls for the 84-hour group will be desolate. But if you prefer isolation and solitude for the first few stages, then you can pick the 84-hour limit. If you plan to zoom ahead of the bulk of the riders, then pick the 80-hour limit. If you're totally new to PBP, then go for the safe bet and pick a 90-hour slot. Indians should expect to spend about 2.5 to 3 lakhs on a 2 weeks long trip for PBP on a general list of travel expenses mentioned here. This is just to give you an idea of how much it will cost you to go for PBP and also do some reasonable bit of local travel, sightseeing, shopping, etc. You can find an Excel sheet on AIR's webpage for PBP Resources, which will have a more detailed breakup of various expenses I personally incurred in 2019 under different categories. So you might be able to fine tune your own personal budget, and it will also give you a fair idea of some of the typical costs involved. For now, just make a note of the approximate amount you must be prepared to spend, and please save up accordingly. These are some of the challenges faced by Indians in previous editions. Getting to the start line of PBP is easy for most, but crossing that finish line will depend on your training and preparation for this challenging event. Learn to manage your sleep. Taking cat naps or coffee naps is a valuable skill at PBP. Be sure to get your cycle thoroughly serviced at least a month before PBP. Buy a new chain, cassette, tires, and tubes as a bare minimum to avoid common mechanical issues. In 2023, there were a few options for vegetarians and vegans at all controls, so be willing to adjust with the options available. If you're very particular about your diet, then carry some snacks or stop at local grocery stores to buy fruits, etc. Next, we'll talk about the route and terrain at PBP. The entire route is mostly rolling terrain with relentless short climbs. There are absolutely no flat stages in PBP. The typical hill gradient will range from 1% to 6%, but on average, each hill will be 3 to 4%. Typical climb would be 1 kilometer, 1.5 kilometer. The longest climb, with an exception, would be like 3 kilometers. So the exception in previous editions has been Rock Traversal. That is the only one long climb that has come on the route, and that's about 11 kilometers, and it's 1% gradient from one side and 2% gradient from the other end. So the route has not been finalized, only the control points have been announced. So it's not clear if this climb would be included in the next edition. The total climb in this event, as mentioned multiple times, is 12,000 meters, which comes to about 10 meters per kilometer. That is what you should train for. If you can find a hill that's 1 to 2 kilometers long and it has a gradient of 2 to 3% or 4%, that would be absolutely perfect for you to go out there and do some hill climb repeats to simulate the kind of terrain at PBP. The road surface will be good, but the top layer will be just slightly coarser when compared to our Indian national highways. This is to help with the tire traction when it snows in France. There will also be a few cobblestone sections when you pass through all these small towns and villages across the French countryside. And those cobblestone sections will generally be very short, nothing to be worried about too much. Road conditions in general are very good on this event. You will not encounter any potholes or broken tarmac or debris on the road. The rural roadways are sparse with motor vehicle traffic when compared to the Indian brevees that are held on national highways and state highways. The motorists also in France are extremely respectful of space for cyclists. The French road rules require them to keep 1.5 meter distance when they pass cyclists. They also rarely honk at you. In terms of navigation, as I mentioned earlier, ACP will be installing route markers throughout the route. You will encounter just two types of signs: one route marker pointing you towards Brest, and one marker pointing you towards Paris on your return journey. So when you start the event, just keep looking for the route markers to take you to Brest. You turn around and then you keep following the route markers to take you back to Paris. It's easy to make a wrong turn if you're not attentive for the route markers. GPS tracks will be provided by ACP, which means they'll be stage-wise from one control point to the other. You can load these on your phone apps, or you can use a bike computer like a Garmin or a Wahoo for navigation. So what can you expect at the control points? The moment you roll into a typical control, you will find the RFID timing mat or receiver antennae, which will register your reporting time that's linked to the RFID bib. You will immediately observe an elaborate cycle parking area. You'll just park your cycle and head over to get your brevet card stamped. You'll see plenty of signage at the control points pointing you towards where you can get your brevet card stamped, where you can get your water bottle filled, if you need to use the toilets. Some of the control points will have sleeping areas where you can go and get a bed and blanket. And they'll also have a wake up service. You can inform the volunteer what time you need to be woken up. You'll Some of the controls you'll encounter a rapid food section where there'll be very minimum options and you can just grab and go. And you'll also typically have an elaborate sit down dining area like a school or college canteen. Just grab what you want from a buffet line and pay for it, and then go find a table and chair and have your meal. That's also a great way to catch up with some of your fellow riders. You will also have a mechanical support section, basically one of the local bike shops in the town where the control point is hosted will come to that control point and set up a tent, so you can buy all kinds of spares there, typical your tail lights or tires, tubes, etc. They'll also have bike mechanics there to fix up any issues that you may be facing. You will also be able to buy energy gels and bars, things like that at the same counter. I remember in 2019, I was able to buy a coin cell battery for my HR sensor at one of the controls bike shops. There will also be a medical station, so you can get first aid if you need it. Again, controls will be having plenty of signage for you to navigate through them. So I did not find that to be a very big issue. I will request all of you to please always be polite with all the volunteers at PBP. Volunteers won't necessarily be cyclists, so they won't be able to address all your concerns. If you're going to start asking them something like if you're going to be homologated, if you're late by a couple of hours, these are not things that a local volunteer might be able to answer. Such issues will get addressed at the finish line when you go to submit your brevet card. Here's a quick overview of the event conditions to be expected at PBP. It will be summertime, so the days will be longer and you can expect daylight till about 9 p.m., which is much longer than what we are accustomed to in India. August is also vacation season in France, so most folks take a break from work to travel to the countryside. You will get a lot of support from local townsfolk along the route as you will be riding past their homes. Locals will come out to cheer for the riders and will even set up like elaborate decorations in their front yard. They'll put up a picnic table outside their home to serve the riders with some home brewed coffee and home baked cakes and cookies. It's a wonderful experience. The whole atmosphere of the event is very festive. You can anticipate the weather conditions to be severely cold at night, with temperatures dropping to 4 to 5 degrees Celsius at night, and then peaking to a sunny 35 degrees Celsius in the afternoon. So it's a really wide range from midnight to afternoon. You need to train in the Indian winters to prepare for those sub 10 degrees Celsius temperatures in the nighttime. It has also rained in the past 4 to 5 editions of PBP, ranging from light to moderate to heavy. 2023, we were mostly lucky. Very few people encountered a little bit of drizzle. That's about it on one of the days. But it is imperative that riders buy foul weather technical clothing specifically for PBP to keep yourself warm and dry. An example is like a Gore-Tex Shake Dry jacket, which is, of course, on the more expensive side, but you can get some nice, cheaper, packable raincoats to carry. The 2019 edition was particularly windy, so it would help to ride in a group and take turns to lead. So try to get in some group ride training. On that note, we will now talk about the training needs for PBP. It is imperative that you train to become a strong climber. There are no shortcuts to this. You will need to find a hill nearby and keep practicing with hill climb repeats at least once a week. You'll need to improve your shifting with the changing gradient on the hills and improve your climbing cadence. You'll also end up improving your bike handling skills while cornering, especially on how to brake when going downhill fast. If you're hard pressed for time or if you don't have any hills nearby, then your next best option is to get a smart indoor trainer and use some tools like Trainer Road or Zwift to do some power based indoor training. You can sign up for a structured plan and work on improving your FTP. If a power based training plan is not an option for you, then you can also get an HR sensor and a cadence sensor and train based on your HR zones. The bulk of your training should be focused towards base training since the event is over a year away. Base training simply means high volume of training time at your power zone 2 or HR zone 2. This will be a conversation pace where you won't be gasping for air. Most people have an unstructured approach to PBP for training, which is fine, as many people have completed PBP without the aid of a professional coach or a power meter. However, if you're time crunched, then a structured training plan is your best bet to get you across the finish line. You can look for polarized training plans where 80% of the workouts will be at zone 2 and 20% will incorporate threshold training. Please set tangible goals for yourself, keeping in mind that your progression will be non-linear. This means you won't necessarily improve your speed or climbing each week. It is normal to have highs and lows in our performance and sometimes even hit a plateau. You will also get faster on the climbs if you focus on losing some weight. If you're already on the lighter side, then focus on building muscle mass. You should also consider getting a professional bike fit to reduce your discomfort on long rides. If you can't get a bike fit in your area, then watch a few YouTube videos for advice on making minor adjustments to your bike, which will significantly improve your saddle comfort. You will also need to focus on off-saddle training by strengthening your core. Try holding a plank for 30 seconds to 2 minutes. If you can hit the gym for some weight training, then focus on doing fewer reps per set with heavier weights. This will unlock explosive bursts of speed on short climbs. Don't ignore your recovery needs, especially during the tougher training weeks. The harder you train, the more recovery you will need. The best recovery tools are sleep and stretching. This is the end to my first video on the road to PBP 2027. We'll post more videos on training and prep for PBP, including the gear and spares recommended to be carried during the event. We'll also talk about travel hacks, address Schengen visa concerns, and share important tips from PBP finishers. We also plan to have a live Q&A session soon. If you found this video useful, then please share it with your friends who are also thinking about riding PBP. Thank you for your time.